Well, I was hoping that we would be at a different point today and that we would be moving towards on other bills while a conference committee was at work on this. And one of the reasons that I was hoping that calmer heads and saner heads would prevail and that there would in fact be a conference committee on this is because even though the senator from, I believe it was the 30th that brought forward this bill on the motion to agree as amended by the Senate with these amendments 1 and 1A. And most of the discussion has been about basically two changes: the issue that's been bouncing back and forth about the E-Verify system and the issue that's been bouncing back and forth about what to do about code violations, ordinance violations, and of course misdemeanors. That's gotten a lot of discussion, including discussion by the senator from the 45th just recently as she was speaking in the well very passionately about her side of this. But the reality is that more than 24 changes were made to this bill when it left this chamber, went over to the House. And in fact, those changes were being drafted before this bill, before our version of the bill as passed by the Senate, ever even passed the Senate. The representative carrying this bill in the House was already working with legislative counsel on what that representative was going to dictate to the Senate that we pass. And instead of the Senate saying that, no, in fact, we have spent hours and hours on this bill, we have looked at these amendments, and we, in fact, have a voice in this. We're apparently being dictated to by one House member exactly what this bill should be and what it should contain. And while there is an amendment, and an Amendment 1A, it's really just window dressing. It doesn't do anything substantive. When I came in the well, I think it was maybe 3 days ago, talking about the fact that you could put lipstick on a pig and you could dress a pig up and it would still be a pig. And that even if you took and you bought that pig a dress at Saks, it would still be a pig in a dress. And if you took and got it the most expensive lipstick you could get from the Nordstrom's makeup counter, it would still be a pig. Well, I guess we have gone, instead of going over to Saks, they decided, well, Saks won't do, so let's go down to Nordstrom's or let's go to Bloomingdale's. But it's still a pig in a dress, folks. And maybe instead of going to the Origins counter, they went to the Lancome counter to buy some fancy lipstick. But it's still a pig in a dress with lipstick. And no matter how much money I spend on lipstick and dresses, it's still a pig. And we're still being dictated to by the House about what we will and will not pass in this body, and our voices aren't heard, and apparently people here don't have the courage to stand up and insist and say that a conference committee should take a look at this, because there were more than 24 changes drafted. Not 24. I am going to go through a few of them because that raise at least some concern to me. One of those is that if y'all will look, for those that actually are still looking at this bill, because I think most of us have made up our mind, I don't see a person with the bill out. But if you will actually look at the bill, and apologies to the senator from the 29th if he looked up and was looking at the bill and the amendments. But we've basically passed a section of our law saying that we are not going to recognize driver's licenses from other states. If you look at Section 5 on page 5, lines 1, it looks to be 160 through about 169, if those states don't verify citizenship, we won't recognize their driver's license. That violates the U.S. Constitution. We've already been talking about the cost of this going to court and whether or not this was going to court. If we had put this in a conference committee and had some lawyers looking at that, maybe somebody might have been mentioning the fact that you can't do that. If you're trying to draft a bill that's not going to get up in the court, you've already created one more amendment, one more change that's going to get into the courts and get struck down.